Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. I'm your host, Scott Friedman, and today we're going to be focusing, or I'm going to be focusing on being the world because uh, the mantra that I got when I meditated on what would be a good mantra to have was I am the world. And since I've gotten that, I've been questioning why I got that and even meditating on, is that really the best mantra for me, and I've been looking for more understanding for why I got that mantra in my meditation and why it's the optimal mantra for me. And yesterday, I got some real insights that I want to share and expand on today. And what I really understood now is that uh, that relating to being is really important because it's in a way the final step in spiritual growth, and that without um, ascending to that or relating to that and incorporating that, knowing that being conscious of that being true, there's a denial of reality, and denial of reality creates stress, problems, anguish, and all kind of other things. And so I've been like, okay, well, I get that. And what I've come to understand is that um, there is a hierarchy of consciousness, if you will. And it starts at the top with being, where we are all that exists, right? We're not the drop in the ocean. We're the whole ocean. We're the whole banana, right? We're not a separate person. And that's kind of what it got me going on sort of this track of meditation years ago, is the end of that quote, in dying to self, we're born to eternal life. And I've gotten all kinds of enhanced understandings about what that means and why that's important and such. But suffice it to say that being one with God is being one with all that is, and that is the highest level of consciousness. And in that level, there's nothing that could be everything that exists already exists, and there's no creating, there's no differentiation, there's just being. And um, that's really important to understand because as I understand that, I see the next level down in consciousness is will, where I have a will to do things. And I've experimented various ways with exercising my will, right? I one time said, well, I'm not going to drink alcohol or have carbohydrates for 3 months. And I'm going to do that as an exercise in will and just see if I can exercise my will to make that happen. And I did it. And I did it. And then, when I hurt my back, I said, oh, I'm going to exercise my will to see if I can take the garbage cans out. And it hurt, but I was able to do it. And I was able to exercise my will effectively. So that's the next level down in consciousness. Then below that, the will creates and directs the mind. So until the will creates and directs the mind, there is no differentiation. There is no separateness. There is no you and me. There's just what is. And when we use the will to create the mind, then the mind creates time. The mind creates differentiation. The mind creates lots and lots of things, right? Because whatever thoughts are in our mind are fuel that are for creation. And one of the reasons it's really important to understand this is that, at least for me, is to understand that my mind isn't the whole ball of wax. It's just this little part that's, a subsection of will, which is a subsection of being. And because I understand that now, I can understand more about how when I'm in the present moment, I'm being, right? So, people talk about, it's important to be present. It is, because when we're present, we're experiencing being. Now, one of the things that I find helpful, though, is to have a greater awareness of exactly more aspects of what it means to be one. to be all that exists. And um, so it's helpful. And so when I understand that the mind is part of uh, is created by the will, then I can go, okay, I can choose to sort of lower my energy level or vibration and participate in the thinking world where there's time, right? Where there's taxes due and there's bills to pay and there's teeth to brush and there's, all kind of, groceries to buy and, work to do and all of that stuff, right? Uh, that that whole experience is optional, right? Because I can choose to engage, I can choose to create the mind and focus on what the mind focuses on uh, if I want to, but I don't have to because I can go and just be in the realm of just being where I am all that exists. And I'm still, fleshing all of this out, but I wanted to understand a lot of creation. And one of the things that I've come to realize is that creation is a lower vibration than being, and that I can choose to participate in creation or not. And so having that sort of detachment from creation allows me to understand it better, right? If I'm, that old thing, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? If I'm in the middle of the forest, I don't really know where it begins and ends and all the characteristics of the forest. But if I'm in a plane looking down on the forest, then I'm outside of the forest and I can understand and see and relate to exactly what that forest is. Well, it's the same thing with the mind, right? If I'm in the midst of the mind, then I can't really understand as well as I might be able to how what the mind is and how it works. But when I can detach from the mind and being in a state of being and see the mind as just a small part of what it is to be, then it's like, oh, okay. Then I can have a better understanding of the mind in the same way that I can have a better understanding of the forest if I see it from an airplane and I can see the boundaries of it. I can see what is forest and what is not forest. And so this way I could see what is mind and what is not mind, and what is creation and what is not creation. And it's all very helpful for me because it allows me to um, have less stress because the stress is always the same. It's always the denial of what's true. And what's true is that the mind doesn't exist at all unless I create it with my will. And that's what's true. And so it's okay. And I can, and every instant is a new instant, right? So I can be creating the mind in this instant and then choose, okay, no, I'm not going to create the mind. I'm just gonna focus on just being, just being. Okay, now I'm going to go back and focus on the mind and record a podcast and do other things, feed the dogs, take care of my wife, and I'm gonna. But all those things are. I've entered the forest and I'm not seeing the boundaries of the forest anymore. I've entered the mind and I'm not seeing the boundaries of the mind anymore. And that metaphor or comparison, if you will, is really helpful for me to understand and to be more at peace with things. So that's why it's so important to uh, understand that uh, I am all that exists, and you are all that exists, and we're not the drop in the ocean; we're the whole ocean. And so understand and I'm still kind of getting used to the idea and learning to relate to it better and use it better and use that information better, if you will. And but I'm getting there, and this is a big step forward, and I'm excited about it. Um, so I wanted to use this podcast as a challenge and opportunity to articulate that more fully so that I could accept it more fully. I mean, that's the whole point of like when I do speeches and stuff, it's all about uh, accepting myself more fully, right? Because that's what spiritual growth is. That's where all the joy is. That's where all the effectiveness is. And so that's where I want to be, and that's what I want to do. And that's the point of this podcast is to be able to understand that I can create my mind or not, depending upon the exercise of my will, and I can experience having my will by um, being in a state of being and choosing whether or not I want to create my will and whether or not I want my will wants to create my mind. And I love just the idea that that's all optional and at my discretion. And so I'm going to continue to go on my path of meditation and learning and understanding, and and testing it out, right? To make sure that I'm continuing to um, realize myself, right? Self acceptance is self realization, right? And that's the game here, and that's the way to experience uplifting joy and never ending peace and peace beyond understanding and love everywhere and all these things that we aspire to, they all become much more accessible to me as I embrace this understanding of I am all that exists. I am the world. And that's why I got the mantra, I am the world, to help me understand and relate more to this. And that as being all that exists, I can choose when I create my will and when my will decides to create my mind and my mind decides to create my mind creates my world, my physical world, which is a tiny part of who I am, of being. So there are practical applications of that because as I accept myself, I have more energy to work with and I have more power and I can resonate light and, you know, more completely. And it should absolutely increase my conscious experience of joy and love and peace. And that's the whole goal, right? It should consciously um, result in me having more energy and more inspiration that I experience in that physical world that I create with my mind, knowing that I can pull back from that to just a state of being and let the mind disappear due to lack of attention anytime I want. And I'm looking forward to getting increasingly adept at that. So anyway, we create our world, our physical world, with our mind, and that the more that we understand that we create our mind with our will, and we create, and the will we is part of being all that exists, gives us more clarity and detachment and effectiveness in all of our perspectives, including the mind world perspective. And so that's a good thing, right? Choice. Anyway, I offer thought coaching because it's a lot of where the way I think is that as a mortgage broker, I see part of my job is to get people to where they don't need a mortgage anymore, right? We get it paid off, right? Or the payment becomes so low that it's insignificant in their life, right? So my goal is to work me out of a job, right? And that's how I know I've really succeeded is that when people don't need new loans for any particular reason, then I've worked myself out of a job and I've done well. Well, it's the same thing with the mind and the coaching of the mind is that when we're aware, increasingly aware of how our mind works and how we create our mind, right? Then we can use our mind more and more effectively, and then we don't need thought coaching anymore, right? So that we can use our mind to end our mind, so to speak, and be increasingly more in being and understanding that when we're in being, we're not really using our mind. We're just being. And so it's the thought coaching helps you, uh, helps us all, myself included, master our mind at a level where we don't really need it. It's there, but we don't really need it the same way that we might still have a mortgage, but I got you a 2% interest rate on your mortgage and your payment is negligible and uh, you don't have to, it's not a concern anymore, it's not a problem anymore, and it's just, going along and you're happy the way it is. And so that's kind of where what my thought coaching is geared to do in terms of your thinking is to provide a level of mastery over your thinking that you can create anything you want with your thoughts, and you can also shut the thinking off if you want to just rest in being. Anyway, so I offer, and to sort of bring it down a little bit further in vibration, if there's something that you want to accomplish, the reason that we want to accomplish our goals is because of the growth that it's required of us. And so in my coaching, what I do is I we help understand and accept the growth that needs to occur, the increased self-acceptance that needs to occur, so that there's the clarity to achieve that goal, right? So I was like, I know that I've achieved the growth that I need when I achieve that goal. And so that's kind of the metric that we use to measure success in the coaching. And it's guaranteed, right? I mean, we do an initial interview, and if we're a fit and decide to work together, then we establish the metrics of what success looks like, and you don't pay if we don't meet those metrics. So there's an audition, if you will, that we go through to make sure we want to work together, and that is something that is going to be beneficial for us both. So anyway, if that's something that resonates with you and you're excited about being able to gain greater clarity to achieve the goals that you have, then contact me at Scott Friedman 40 to set up an initial consultation where we decide if we're a fit. And that's SCOTTFRIEDMAN 40 @gmail.com. My books are available on Amazon. You can find links to them on my website, www.thoughtcoachingbyscott.com. Okay, be well.